All right, welcome to episode 3 of Between Sets and Snacks. Today we have on two special guests. First one being Blaine, a return member, master's degree in nutrition, human performance, certified strength and conditioning specialist, blah, blah, blah. We already know him from last time. And then we also have on Mike Greco. Mike Greco is has a master's degree in occupational therapy. He is certified occupational therapist through NBCOT, which I don't know what that means. And he specializes in inpatient rehabilitation, going on 5 years of experience. And he is also a former college sprinter, very much like Joey's exes in college would always run away from him. All right, welcome, guys.
That was an unnecessary shot right off the bat.
What? I don't know what I said. Welcome, guys, to the podcast. Happy to have you. It's been so long since I've seen you. It's not like we've been trying to set up the cameras for the last 30 minutes. But
kudos
we're
to us
here.
for having this down to a science. We know exactly what we're doing. All going
The
off
pinnacle of professionalism. Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on
Cheers.
here.
For having us.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
It's almost like I've been drinking this for 20 minutes.
God.
It's almost
All
like
right,
this
hey,
is my
we
fifth
did
one.
good.
All right.
But
I gotta
Kenny,
start
all
off
right,
with-
I was going to say, Kenny had the most technical issues last time, so it was nice to see that he was the one that had zero technical issues this time. So he's all
Dude,
polished up now.
I learn from
Cleaned
my
it up.
mistakes.
Cleaned it up.
Adaptability.
Wow. He's come so far
All right, Joey.
in the past 2 weeks. It's been unbelievable. All right.
Come on
so
now.
let me get to my first question, Mike. This is a very important question. We start off every single episode. What is your favorite snack? And if you can't think of one, we will take a top 3.
Ooh, favorite snack. I mean, can we just go sour candy in general? We were just having this
Ooh, we
conversation
can.
earlier.
Yeah, that is.
Some Sour Patch Kids, of course.
I
that's a
respect
go-to.
I respect how quick he was to that.
Yeah, very quick. What is your favorite Sour Patch Kid?
Favorite one. I mean, red's
I'm not saying like the
great.
colors, like there's like the watermelon flavors, or do you like the OG Sour Patch Kids?
I do like the OG one, but one I had a couple weeks ago is the lemonade flavor. By far my favorite.
Really? Wow.
I've never had that one.
I didn't
have to
even
try it.
know they're creating new flavors these days.
You know, you got to spoil your palate sometimes, so give it a go.
You're absolutely right. I will point out though, Blaine, I took a lot away from our first conversation. Maybe nothing more than the fact that I have been going crazy on hummus. And
Hell yeah.
my God, is hummus amazing?
Oh, yeah. Anything's a red light food if you try hard enough.
Yeah. So I have to say thank you for that. And then, Mike, I'll definitely have to check out the Sour Patch Kids now because I haven't had them in a while.
Yeah, hummus
Usually
is
it's-
great. I had used hummus as a transition off of chips and French onion dip because I was just way too addicted. Probably had
Yeah.
a carton of it in about 2 days, so hummus was my way to kind of get off of it. So, respect.
Respect.
Well, Joey, you know what? It's episode 3, so it might as well talk about you and I's favorite snacks. What's yours?
Oh, God.
Big
That
booty
is-
Latinas.
Yeah.
Respect. That's only a
Oh,
snack
sorry.
too.
I was just.
And
that
that's
was
the
forecast.
podcast, everybody.
That's it.
Guys,
Signing
my
off.
girlfriend watches these
Best
things.
one so
Please.
far.
Unbelievable shots that headed my way right off the bat. But I will say, to answer your question, have you guys ever heard or had a Take 5 before?
You're
And
with me now.
I regretted the single bite that I've ever taken of it.
Oh.
That is blasphemy. The Take 5 bar.
I don't like pretzels.
Ugh.
What? Who doesn't like pretzels?
I know. I just go. Fuck
That's an
myself, it's fine.
outrageous thing to say for a man that has a podcast with the word snacks in it. Just unbelievable.
I wish I had a Take 5 right here. I would answer it on the go. I've never had one, so can't speak on it.
Oh,
they're
brother, is it amazing?
No,
good. Straight respect.
you're not missing anything.
Unbelievable. Oh, okay.
But anyway,
Yeah, on to more serious notes.
Oreos and milk.
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean,
Oreos and milk.
You're so basic.
That is my go-to guilty pleasure. Dude, I'm white like the milk and the stuffing.
This is going sideways.
But anyway,
come on.
anyway, let's talk about what we came here for.
Yes. I'm sorry to take over the
Joey, tee
conversation
us off.
first. I have to ask the first thing, Mike, when Kenny was reading off your credentials, masters in occupational therapy, my question is, and there are no dumb questions here, what is the difference between like a physical therapist and like an occupational therapist?
And before you answer that, Joey,
yeah.
you can't say there are no dumb questions before you ask your own question.
Well, I absolutely can. As co-host of this podcast, I'm implementing that rule. I'm just getting out of the way now, just to.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so Mike, my first question is, what is the difference between occupational therapists and physical therapists? Because I have no idea.
Yes, there's kind of a lot of overlap, which I think makes it confusing. But one way I'll explain it is, I always say the physical therapist is the one that works on getting you to your destination. So however way that you ambulate or travel to get somewhere. And the occupational therapist is more the individual that works on the things once you get there. So to keep it even easier, in inpatient rehab, which I work, they're what they call ADL, so activities of daily living. So we focus a lot on, functional things that people do every day. So getting up out of bed, their whole morning routine, things like getting washed up, getting dressed, using the bathroom, getting into the shower, working on upper body strength coordination. So again, anything that's kind of more functional, that's kind of more what the occupational therapist works on, and physical therapy would work a little bit more on overall strengthening, walking, stairs, car transfer. So hope that's a short enough version. There's definitely a lot more to it, but try not to bore everybody on the first question either.
No,
Yeah,
that
so
was great.
my question would be, is there a specific demographic that you are working with?
Yeah, so me personally, I've had patients in their high 20s. I've had patients in their 90s, but usually you're going to be more in the middle of that. So I would say between 60s and 80s is mostly what I'm dealing with. I do see some 50-year-olds as well. So again, I think it just kind of depends. But again, any adult population is what I could be seeing on a daily basis.
Which is interesting, because when I hear that description that you just made, I automatically think like elderly. But can you give an example of a client that you worked on that was in their 20s and something that you'd be taking them through?
Yeah, I'll probably keep it even a little bit easier. Maybe I'll go with just more recent example. I've had somebody in their low 40s that had a stroke on both sides of his brain. So for him, at the first steps is just, can we sit at the edge of the bed? Remember the first time I had him sitting at the edge of the bed, he would just retro-lean immediately, requiring a second person in the back to help me kind of assess all the other things. So bare minimum, it's like, can we at least sit at the edge of the bed for a little bit of time? In that time, we have to check their blood pressure, because obviously when they're still in the hospital, it's not just physical rehabilitation. We're focusing a lot on even the medical side of things. So low blood pressure, can we handle the activity that we're doing? Again, just working on general strength, keeping things bed level at first to help them get more independent. I think an easier way to even answer this question is, I always say to my patients, there's 4 things that we're focusing on while you're here. Get you as independent as possible, as strong as possible, as safe as possible, as quick as possible. We usually have patients between 10 to 14 days on average. So it seems like a lot of the time. Sometimes it isn't, just because, again, you have to make sure that people are really safe enough to go home, which is the overall goal.
All right, so as you can tell, we just flew Greco out to see Blaine because we needed to get them both in the same picture. So we're just going to continue the podcast with them in the same room. So I don't remember where we left off. So Joey, ask the next question.
The next question, I was going to ask you for kind of all of you guys, at what point in your education, we'll start with you, Mike. Again, I asked what's the difference between occupational and physical therapy? Why did you want to go more towards occupational as opposed to physical? And then obviously for Blaine and Kenny, you know, in the nutrition field, what made you guys want to go down that branch of fitness and health?
Yeah, for me, I remember I was initially already enrolled in classes at Lewis University to do counseling. So my goal was to do high school counseling and then be a sports coach on top of that. But then I think in that summer, going into that fall, my mom helped me get a job as a rehab tech at a nursing home, which I found occupational therapy. And I'm like, this is kind of everything in one. You know, there's the coaching aspect that I'm looking for. There's a psychology piece because I have a minor in psychology too, so that interested me. And then obviously the connection I was getting with the patients I was having, I knew that it was kind of all my loves meshed into one, and I kind of risked it because usually it's kind of a long process to get into OT school. But again, you need all your paperwork in by December, and at that point it was already September. So kind of took my chances, sent in my paperwork, and here I am having this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, great. What about you, Blaine? What made you want to get into that nutrition field?
Yeah, man. I think it's one of those things that I had always been in the movement realm since forever in athletics and sports and lifting for sports and everything else, all the way through undergrad. And I feel like it was the one thing that a lot of people were missing, and the one thing I was really interested in was nutrition. I think there was just so much murky water to, like, you know, this person saying, you know, eating a plant-based diet is the best, and this person saying that actually, no, eating all meat and fruit is the best, or you need to have a protein bar before practice, or you need to eat fruit before practice. I think there was just so much murky water everywhere that it was like, all right, instead of reading magazine articles in, you know, 2015, or instead of looking at bodybuilding.com, or, you know, even it was murky throughout different, even like studies done and who's funding each study. So I wanted to get as much information as possible. So honestly, it was just curiosity. It was trying to dive as deep as I could to find out what was up and what was down. And yeah, I think it was more just the curiosity of things.
That's awesome.
I just wanted to look good.
Ken, you have a really great brooding and thinking face going on right now. It's fantastic.
It's constipation. Yeah, so no, it's my journey into fitness was not orthodox at all. So I started out as an engineer, and then I realized I haven't been outside in like months, and then I was like, this sucks, not for me. So I went to my advisor, and my advisor was like, well, why are you in engineering? And I was like, because I was told I'd get paid a lot of money. He was like, all right, well, you hate your life, so don't you think you should do something else? And I was like, yeah, okay. He was like, all right, well, what do you like? And I was like, I don't really like school, if I'm being honest. I would always play sports in high school. I'm super into working out now. And he's like, well, why don't you do athletic training? And I was like, what the fuck is athletic training? So then the more I did research, the more I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. So I applied for FSU's athletic training program, which is a closed major, which is awesome because once you get accepted into it, you get assigned a sports rotation. So each semester you're working with a different sports team. And it just so happened that that's when FSU won the national championship with football, won the national championship with soccer, softball, we're badass. Track, we had like Olympians running track with us. So it was such great exposure. But the best part about it is I realized I was starting to study, not because I had a test coming up, but because I wanted to learn more. Right? Because it was just so interesting to me. And everything that I learned in the book, I would go and apply later that day, whether it be with my other classmates in the room actually getting hands-on experience, or if it was something along like exercise physiology, I would go into the gym and like test it out myself. So it was like able to see in real time, like, hey, these are the way that things work biomechanically. And it was just like everything made sense in my brain. So the more that I learned, the more I wanted to learn, right? So it was like the more you found out how things worked, the more you were like, okay, there's got to be more to it. And it's just there, it's so many layers to it. And I've become such a nerd because it is so exciting to learn about. And then I can also go to the gym and look good while being a nerd. So it's like, why not?
The best of both worlds.
Right, right.
It's interesting that you say that, because I feel like with all you fitness professionals, one of the main factors that it comes with enjoying your job and loving your job is seemingly all of you love to be hands-on, with your clients, with your patients and things like that, respectfully. but Mike, for you, because as Kenny said, you were a college sprinter. So was there any similarities that, came from being like an athlete in your own time to now you're in occupational therapy? Like what was the similarities from there or differences?
I mean, I'd say there's definitely more differences than things that are the same. I think a lot of it, though, it's especially being an athlete before, just learning discipline. Some of those things you kind of have to practice. You have to practice, getting enough recovery, sleep, nutrition, working out, stretching, cooling down, all those things. Now, obviously, with the population I work with, you're not going to have somebody sprinting or doing anything like that, but it's still the same principles, right? You're focusing on nutrition, you're focusing again on sleep, recovery, coaching. I've been lucky throughout all my years with track. I've had some awesome coaches along the way. So just kind of picking their brain, seeing how they talk to individuals. And again, I'd say the similarities, between an athlete and a patient, just you can have a room full of 10 athletes and a room full of 10 patients, and they're all different. As I say, some people need a swift kick in the ass and some people need to be nurtured. So you got to kind of know which one your patient needs. And again, you don't have too much time to kind of decide that. So I think with each year of experience, that gets a little bit easier.
I agree with that 1,000%. I think that the more patients that you get in front of you, the more you start to pick up on certain patterns, and the more you're able to see like, okay, I can tell that I can act this way towards this person and get better results. I know that based off the way that they just walked in this room and they were like, how the hell are you? Okay, I can go ahead and kind of be a little bit of a jackass back to you because I know you're going to respond better that way. So it's the more exposure that you get, the more you're going to be able to dictate how you are interacting with these people. But as long as you are always approaching with a level of respect, first and foremost, you have to build up that respect first before you're really able to kind of break it down a little bit more.
And I think just as important with the respect is like the confidence too, right? Of the confidence of actually being the professional. Especially when you're in a service-based field or a personal trainer, strength coach, where you're almost in a sense of luxury and people are paying for you to get a certain job done. But to be able to like step back and be the professional instead of catering to them and saying they're coming in and saying like, oh, I want to do this today, or I don't think we're doing this right, or why aren't I seeing results? Instead of being like, oh my God, you're right, I'm going to change this, I'm so sorry, like whatever, or being like, hey, motherfucker, like, no, we're doing everything we should be in here, but you're not putting in any work outside of here. Or, hey, yeah, you're paying to see me 3 times a week, but if you're only coming in and hitting it 60% of your effort, like, don't put that on me. You need to come in and have a lot more effort and go that way. So sometimes being able to give professional advice that is the reason why they're not getting to where they need to be takes a challenge of needing that confidence to be able to like step back and be like, hey, like, I know you're paying to see me, but like, I need more out of you.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, it sounds sometimes that, I assume that patients get in their head sometimes. It's a lot of mental like preparation and like accepting where you are at in the process, do you guys feel, especially nowadays, because everyone's always talking about mental health and how you should take care of that as much as your physical health, do you guys sort of take that into consideration when you're formulating assessments or plans and things like that?
From a sense of personal training and like coaching, um, I honestly think it's everything. I mean, we could break it down from like a motivational standpoint, right? So intrinsic motivation. So motivation from within is going to be the ultimate driver, right? So I mean, you can only watch so many Ronnie Coleman videos to get hyped up, right? But it's like unless you have something within driving you, that's what's going to get that consistency going, right? So in order to find that, it's you have to be faced with like a great coach, right? So you have to make sure that this coach is able to bring out like your why. Like why are you doing this? Like what is your emotional connection to you coming into the gym and getting after it every day, 5 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever it is. If you're able to find that emotional connection, then it's okay, there's a little bit more motivation from inside to start driving. But it's like you have to ask the right question. You can't tell people to do things, but if you ask the right questions and let them come to that conclusion themselves, that is ultimately what's going to make them more efficient at the gym, more consistent at the gym.
Well, and like I'll keep digging deeper, and I agree 100% with Kenny. And I might not necessarily call it, a mental health, poor mental health, or a mental health issue as much as it could be a mental roadblock. Almost everyone coming in, one, can understand where their unhealthy habits lie in their day. They can also probably tell you what they need to be doing or what they need to change or what's a good meal versus a bad meal. And it's almost as if our line of work as a health coach needs to figure out what is the obstacles. Is it an environmental issue? Is it an occupational issue? Is it a family issue of priority, issue of timing? What is preventing you from doing the things that you already know you need to do? It's one of those unique things when a patient or a client is coming to see us. They already know everything they need to do to fix it, but they're not doing it. So it's like, all right, let's dissect what the hell is broken.
Yeah, mine's probably a little bit different than you guys, just because these patients that we have are, it's the opposite. It's like they're trying to figure out what a new normal is going to be like. Again, we have a lot of patients that either have a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, heart surgery. They even have what they call LVAD, so it's a left ventricle assist device. So it literally connects to the bottom of your heart. Again, the list goes on, but again, I think the toughest thing for me is in 10 to 14 days, it seems like a lot of the days, but it's really not. It's just trying to get them used to knowing what a new normal is going to look like. Not that they're not going to get stronger, but to expect them to be the person that they were before is just simply not realistic. But if you don't think I'm going to try to get you as close as that as possible, you're definitely going to be wrong. So I think it's just trying to find what their passions are, making sure, if they have close family, we get them in for family trainings just so, again, the family can be more of that mouthpiece, just because unfortunately, especially in my field, Blaine's field, all your guys' fields, you're never with the person 24/7, right? I always say to my patients, there's 24 hours in a day. You're in therapy for 3 of those, and then obviously you got to sleep. But in your waking hours, most of the time, we're not there. So it's really hard and really difficult, but you really got to, find what they're passionate about and connect that with the training that they're going through to make them the most successful.
Yeah, and to expand on the mental health from an athletic training standpoint, mental health in athletics is something that recently has been getting better, but is still nowhere near where it should be. Because essentially you have these individuals that have trained their entire lives to be the greatest at their sport, and then you can come across an injury that is career ending, and it's like, well, that's my entire identity. So like, where do I go from here? So it's a lot of preventative work. So allowing them to kind of build up these relationships outside of their sport. So before, knock on wood, there is any injury, it's building these relationships. Okay, what is a backup plan? Like a lot of athletes don't want to talk about backup plans because it's like, oh no, if I'm not 100% invested in this, I will never get to where I need to be. Okay, but also like, what are you gonna do when you're done being an athlete? Are you just gonna microdose the rest of your life and then just like live off your non-investments? But after the injury, exactly like Mike was saying, social support has shown to be the biggest like benefit, right? So if an athlete gets injured, having the other athletes support them, having the coaching staff support them, having their family, if they're nearby, support them. It's something where it's like all these people are counting on you, whereas before mental health was really addressed, it was kind of just like, oh, hey, you're out, you're no longer useful to me, goodbye. And it's just like, when it's a business, and it's pretty messed up. But it's like, you know who did this really well is Florida State. Their whole community came around Jordan Travis, their quarterback, who is going on a Heisman run. They were going on a national championship run, and their quarterback snapped his leg. What was it? Last game of the season. And it's kind of, or second to last game of the season.
Like right before the college playoffs.
Yeah, and the whole community came around. The whole team after the game was in the hospital with him. The community is backing him up. The coach was always reaching out to him. And it's just like, that is what is so necessary in order for a kid to recover. Right? Because, I mean, if you have that level of support, you're going to bust your ass trying to get back into the game. But even if you weren't getting back into the game, knowing that you weren't just this piece of meat, you weren't just being used to be better. Like, you were part of the community. And I feel like it's so important to continuously follow up with athletes after they're injured, making sure that they are still okay. And there's a long way to go because it's unfortunately still a business.
Can I ask a quick question really quick? Who do you guys think is more motivated in the gym? An athlete trying to get back into it, or like someone who just went through like a breakup?
Breakups make bodybuilders, dude.
Is that a real thing?
1,000%.
It's a prerequisite, isn't it?
1,000%. Correct. It's like I know some bodybuilders that will date girls just to have their heart broken so they can get bigger.
Wow. That is like method acting. It's like Daniel Day-Lewis. Oh my goodness. All right.
Dedicated. Married to the game.
Yeah, there you go. I guess my next question would be we'll start off with Mike. Has there been how has your occupational field evolved, I guess you would say, since you started going through it? I mean, has there been any changes? I mean, obviously we just, we got over COVID, a couple of years ago, and now we're still getting through it. Like, is there any way to approach something new now? I mean, Kenny he's training people over the phone these days. Like, what's it like in today's world?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when you talk about COVID, that's a whole different situation there. But I would say, especially for occupational therapy, the greatest rise of it and the greatest fall of it is just how much that we can be involved with. Like what I was explaining earlier before the computer backed out and cut out on me. There's just so many different settings and so many different avenues for occupational therapy. So it gets really, really tough to kind of dig deep and to get people to really understand those services. Some people just don't request them because, again, they just don't know what it is. So that's why, having health professionals jump on video calls, use the internet more again from COVID. I think the biggest thing we've gotten better with is technology to, have these podcasts. I mean, it seems pretty easy. You just pop open an app and here we are talking to each other. But I think the more we can get different disciplines in with each other, again, for example, you guys didn't know much about occupational therapy. So now you hear conversations out and about, you guys could even spread that voice to say like, all right, what does this do? How does this help? And I think us as health professionals, one thing we need to get better at is, advocating for each one of our services because, that person, that client, may not be at that point right now. But God forbid there might be that situation where they're going to need that service. So the more you know, the better you are. Knowledge is power. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like Blaine, how is it for you, like in the nutritional field where everyone's just looking up stuff on the computer and they know everything? Like, oh, well, I read on WebMD that I should have more oats.
The most recent thing I saw was eggs are bad for you. Don't eat eggs.
But then they're good again for a few years. Then they're bad again for a few years. And then they flip flop. No, it's funny. You could say, yeah, technology has been great to allow for virtual communication with clients, right? You can now hop on a call for 30 minutes and do your coaching conversations. You don't have to have a physical office space anymore. You're not trying to have conversations in the gym. You can kind of have these one-off conversations. So in the respect of communicating through your clients and maybe even picking up new clients, technology has been fantastic. But I think for how fantastic it's gotten and how easy communication has gotten, it's gotten equally worse. Because you have lots of very in-shape people on social media and in public and everything else that have no education, no credentials other than like, look at my fat ass or my big biceps, right? And this gives me the credentials to now coach thousands of people. So I think, and let me get that straight too. Some of those people are doing an awesome job. Didn't need a formal education or spreading really great information. But what I would say is like every idiot has a microphone now. So whether you're an expert or an idiot, everyone's got the same microphone without someone next to them fact checking them. So the amount of misinformation that I've had to, I wouldn't say correct or there is no true black and white when it comes to nutrition, and it's kind of different for everyone, but I've had to lead clients more in the right direction of literature to help support claims and maybe, not support other claims through certain influencers. So long story short, I think it's amazing for communication, but that communication can be taken out of context in the wrong way for others. So it's been a fucking circus.
Yeah. To add on to that, Blaine, I mean, you touched on it the last time that you came on the podcast, but it is so easy for people to get like lost in the sauce, where there's so much like minute detail of things where it's like, oh, you want to eat your food in this specific order in order for like the glycogen to break down. It's like, what does your structure look like? Like, have you mastered the basics of nutrition yet? If you haven't mastered just this very basic level, don't worry about everything else, right? Because you're trying to sprint before you're crawling.
Well, and it's funny, yes, 100%, and I love how you said that too. And it's funny is it's not even, I don't even care about a mastery level of anything, and it's so funny me having a formal nutrition background as well as nutrition certifications that I almost like to not even talk about nutrition for my first few calls with a client or first few times seeing a client. It's like consistency is king. So if every day you live is wildly different than the next, like what is changing food like your body has no idea what's happening. If on Mondays you get 8 hours of sleep and then Tuesdays you get 3 and then Wednesdays you get 4 and you go into the office on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then you're at home on Tuesday, Thursday, or like you haphazardly working out, not working out, traveling, not traveling. It's like your body needs some sort of consistency. It doesn't. Every situation is completely different, but like most of the time when I am getting into nutrition, it's literally like, did you eat 3 times today? Like, sweet. Like, I don't care what you did, but like, did you eat 3 times? Awesome. For the next 6 weeks, eat 3 times every day. I don't even care what it is.
Correct. Well, that's what I meant by the basics. Was basics. Yeah, but then those are the same people that are like, well, I need to eat 16 cups of blueberries a day because of the antioxidants and because I know that it will get into my mitochondria faster. And it's just like, well, you ate 1,200 calories today and you are trying to get to 200 pounds. It doesn't add up, but...
Right, or it's like, hey, I bought a $12,000 cold plunge, and I didn't have enough time to do a plunge for 3 minutes this morning, so should I even come into the gym later? It's like, what the fuck?
Any excuse to not get to the gym.
Have you guys done a cold plunge before? I've always wanted to, but I've never had the opportunity to do it. It seems scary.
No,
I will tell you what.
We don't have...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we don't have one at work yet, but they're putting one in very soon.
They've been talking about that forever, though.
Now they finally hired a third-party company to come in and do it. They've got it all set up already. But anyway, contrast training, in contrast, heat and cold therapy has been something that's been widely used for a very long time. Whether that for you is 7 minutes in a hot sauna to then 3 minutes in a cold shower and back and forth and shocking the body is nothing new. But the cold plunge is come out of the woodwork here. Haven't used it, but I think it could be great. But I don't know how much better it is than the saunas and the steam rooms and just getting a really hard workout in. And what I find funny is a lot of the people that are using the cold plunges religiously are just like desk jockeys that like hit the gym for 30 minutes a day. So I also don't know. I mean, maybe it's not going to be super beneficial for like the recovery of hardcore workouts, and maybe we are going to find out that even if you don't work out, cold plunge is great, right? But I don't know how different it's going to be from like someone who uses a sauna or hot cold shower.
There is a lot of good research coming out about the benefits of the cold plunge. But back to Blaine's point, it's kind of like if you're not getting the very basics down, then it's kind of like that cold plunge isn't going to be doing shit, right? Besides making your balls this big, right? So it's like there's so much research where it's like it will actually make your brown fat cells reduce, and it's like, okay, but then you go and you eat like shit the rest of the day, or you don't eat at all the rest of the day, or you didn't actually work out that week. So it's kind of just like, where are your priorities? Right? So focus on the basics. And then once you are consistent with that, then it's like, okay, maybe I'll take a cold shower. Like you don't need to throw your money at a $1,200 cold plunge when it's like, hey, well,
For
you
real?
might.
I mean, the social media people with BBL say the cold plunge is the way to go, though.
They're gonna lose their BBL's gonna shrink right off, dude.
Oh God, that's fantastic. Oh man, what was I gonna say next? The cold plunge.
I don't know. What were you gonna say?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, Mike, we'll go back to you. What advice do you have for people that are like recovering from like injuries, who are like trying to get back into that fitness sort of background? Like, is there any like advice for like newcomers who are like, I just hurt myself kind of, but I want to get back into like where I was? Is there a way to go about it?
I mean, it's kind of going off what everyone else said here, but I know one of the first quotes I tell my patients really right off the bat is repetition's the mother of skill. Really, no matter what you're doing. Again, you guys are a little bit more in the advanced part of that. My patients, again, it's kind of getting back. All right, we got to get to a side of the bed first. We got to get up. So again, you got to start at the basic level, make that a positive habit, and keep building. And you got to have the serious talks with them. Something I really focused on the last year and a half is not that I wasn't being honest before, but I think you do need to be straightforward with patients about realistic expectations. Not saying that they're never going to get to somewhere again, but just having that serious tone, just saying, hey, like, we got to think about this period in life first. As I always say, too, it's a little bit harder when we talk about a hip or knee injury. What's your typical 8 to 10 weeks? Then you could start doing this. You got to remember, a lot of my patients are coming with brain injuries where there's really no time frame on it. It's some people recover quick, some recover some, and some don't really recover as much or really at all. So to go back to the original question, it's again, setting realistic expectations. And I think to go back to some originally talked about, I think that builds trust in people to buy in when they know that the health professional is being honest with them. Unfortunately, in my experience too, I've seen a good amount of doctors that are afraid to have that conversation and give realistic expectations and say, you know what, things are just are gonna be fine, or don't worry about it. And they're not honest about, you know what, you're not going to be able to do this. You're going to have to do it this way. I think the one cool thing about occupational therapy is we do focus on recovery, but we also work on adapting someone's environment. Either that's through equipment or modifying the way they do things. So again, you can have that compensation side and their recovery side, and they can really work side by side. But again, overall, you're going to hear me say it a lot. It's just repetition's mother of skill, and you really got to make sure that the patient understands and just being honest with them.
Well, I think to piggyback off of that too, I think to my previous, what we were talking about earlier, I think that's what drives me nuts about when people are super like crazy about the Instagram stuff and social media stuff, and it's like, you've got to do it this way, and it's the honesty's not there. It's, yeah, you might be able to lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks, but can you give me the hard talk of like what that's going to take and what you need to see from me? Yeah, you might be able to fit in that dress that you've been trying to fit in since you were 28, but like, I'm also going to need a huge commitment from you and a life change shift, and we're going to need to get everything in line. And if everything lines up perfectly, yeah, we can probably have that. But instead, you have so many people that are like, yeah, I can do that. Hire me. I can make sure that happens. And I think the dishonesty it's just, that's what kills me. I think you summed that up perfectly. Is you need to have those honest conversations. And then to me, I'd rather someone be completely honest with me. And I think although it may be a difficult thing to say, you might be coming off rude and you want to prove that you can do something, having those honest conversations, like, oh, fuck, like, this person cares. And it also sounds like they've done this before. So, like, it sounds like they have some experience, too.
So you're saying that Ozempic is not a good solution?
We could talk about that if you want to, Joey. That's a whole other hour's worth of.
No, but I've been wanting to talk about this for a while now, because I've been seeing videos of celebrities that I haven't seen in years looking like they bought a whole new body, and I don't recognize them. How, first of all, how dangerous is that? And why is it so accessible if it's so unhealthy for you?
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about this. I'm trying to think of the best route to take. I'm getting some feedback. I'm getting an echo.
I'm hearing that too. I wonder if that's from your end.
No, I think Joey's doing something with his earphones.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Everyone's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What were we talking about? Ozempic. Shoot, you said something about Oh, why is it so accessible? Why is it so accessible? Right? Money, baby. Money. Dude, you have big pharma that is all of a sudden like, oh, this diabetic medication, it's going to make you lose weight. Let's pump these babies out. So, I mean, you have all of these peptides that are now under fire because they're not underneath big pharma, right? So it's like, really, Ozempic is a peptide for I don't really
What
know
is
how to
a
break it down
peptide?
more than that. I knew you were gonna follow up with that. That's why I was like, I'm not gonna be able to break down the exact science of it. Yeah. So I mean, a peptide are things that your body like already are naturally creating, like insulin. I don't know, Blaine. You probably might be able to explain it a little bit better than I can at this point.
So, yeah, you're just breaking things down, and our body uses particular components called peptides to engage functions in your body. So, all peptides have a specific function in our body. It's almost like your computer launching a command. And peptides under fire like BPC 157, which greatly aid in recovery, which has been widely banned now for NFL usage and sports usage, which has been deemed to be extremely safe and expand on recovery. Whereas things then like Ozempic, which you make a shit ton of money off of to get people to lose weight very quickly, so they keep filling the prescription. Yeah, it's a very weird thing, right? So if it's under big pharma, it's like, oh, everyone can use it and that's all right. But if it's like, oh, this thing that's very beneficial to health and recovery and other ends of the spectrum, but we're not going to make a ton, the government and big pharma's not going to make a ton of money off of it. It's like, get that shit out of here. And like, it used to be such a tinfoil hat thing to say, but now it's almost like just widely known. And it is, it is a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, especially the last 4 years has changed so many people's mindsets about who you can trust. So once you really start asking the right questions, it's like, well, why is it so widely accessible to everyone? Why is everyone using it? And then it's like you're having these major results. Like, is it too good to be true? And it's kind of like, typically, yeah. Typically, if things seem too good to be true, they usually are, right? So now with Ozempic, it's a medication that has been widely studied, but it's been studied for specifically diabetics. Right. So now all of a sudden it's just being mass produced for the general population. And you don't know what the long-term side effects are for these types of drugs for who knows who's using it, right? Because it's just accessible to everybody. So now you have these cases of people that are going into surgery, and then you're not supposed to eat 24 hours 48 hours before surgery, whatever the surgery is. And then you have these surgeons that are going in and their stomachs are still full. And they have to like stop the surgery, and it's like, well, you didn't fast. They're like, yeah, no, I actually haven't eaten the last 2 days. Okay, well, Ozempic has slowed down your system to the point where there's still food in your stomach. There's still food, like, it's slowed down the system so much where your organs are now not functioning properly. So it's like, okay, what other effects is this having on my body? So typically, anytime you're getting results without any type of work, it's like, well, what's going to give? What am I sacrificing in order to make this happen? So if it suppresses your hunger, okay, well, now are you super malnourished? Like, is your body able to absorb all of the nutrients that you are intaking properly? We don't know. So anytime something like this happens, I use the vaccine approach where it's like, well, let's let everybody else get it first, wait a year and see how they're doing, right? So it's kind of just like let's wait till the data actually starts coming out because all the guinea pigs are going in first. But my rule of thumb is what's up?
No, go for it. Finish your statement and then I'll go.
Yeah, my rule of thumb is if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to say I'm a subject expert on the matter, but like Kenny and I see it on the ground level so much. And then, when people are taking Ozempic and it's literally paralyzing their GI tract and paralyzing their body's ability to digest food so they always feel full. So then, they're losing weight, right, because they're not eating. And then what we're finding is, okay, if someone lost 10 pounds, 5 of it is coming from fat and 5 of it is coming from muscle. So their body fat percentage is still the same, which means they're still at the same risk for cardiovascular disease, diabetes. They're still not a healthy human, right? And then we also see that, okay, now doctors are getting privy to that, and they find another prescription of CJC. So now people are taking CJC and the other 4 drugs that also act like Ozempic together. So now there's that, you're adding that extra prescription onto people, and CJC is supposed to react in a way that prevents muscle breakdown. It's just like, then you're just, okay, well now you're taking 2, 3 prescriptions, and now then you've got to take Viagra because your body's breaking down and your reproductive organs aren't working. And then it's like, holy fuck, now
Kill me at that point.
You're trying to lose weight, and now you're on 4 prescription drugs, and really you just needed to stop eating like an asshole. So now that your metabolism has been paralyzed on Ozempic, and now your doctor's like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but all your blood work's horrible and your body's unhealthy. So now stop taking all those drugs we put you on for the last year. And then when you go to eat back to your normal eating strategies, your metabolism has been paralyzed for so long.
You blow right back up.
And then everything you go back to eat, you are now more overweight than when you started this journey to begin with because you just didn't sleep, exercise, and eat good food. So it's like, you can't beat it. You can't.
People will do whatever they can to get out of working out, eating right, and sleeping right. Everything.
You mean
I can take a pill for this.
You mean all those people that are on Ozempic and Blue Chew can actually just change themselves?
It's so bad. We can almost, Kenny and I are probably to the point now when you see someone and they're like, I lost 10 pounds. We can almost just look at them and know if that 10 pounds was from Ozempic or that 10 pounds was from like hard work. You can almost see it in their face, in their like body. It like, people on Ozempic that have lost the weight look like sickly almost.
Their faces droop more. There's actually like, I believe they started calling like a symptom of Ozempic droop face. I'm pretty sure that's like an actual like probably WebMD like I'm gonna die symptom, but it's on there.
Wow. I mean, in my experience, whenever someone told me they lost weight back in college, I thought, well, it's probably because you're doing a whole bunch of blow.
What sorority are you in?
Here we go. Let's get start the wrong.
Like, I haven't seen you in the gym.
I don't endorse.
Yeah.
Brought to you by
All right. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that's a whole bunch of stories that probably are becoming too common these days. But I want to talk more about your guys' own success stories. You know, I don't want to talk about these Ozempic people, these people that have taken the easy way out. Do you guys have any good recent success stories with your patients where they've met their goal? You know, depending on, you know, it could be a big goal, a little goal. You know, what do you guys have?
I mean, I'm going to say more in a general sense.
Yeah.
I think it's super, super cool for me, especially, again, working in the hospital, when you see a patient pretty much at their lowest level where, again, they can't do just the littlest of things. Actually, I will give a prime example. I had a patient that had a traumatic brain injury, which then a few weeks later turned into a brain hemorrhage. So it was almost like a double brain injury in a sense. I remember first working with her, and she was maybe able to mutter maybe 2-3 words at a time tops, but there'd be big separations, big gaps in time in between that. She was with us probably between 2 and 3 weeks. Throughout that time, I started to progress. She was starting to say full conversations, starting to get back into, big time life. It was just crazy seeing the person that couldn't say 1 to 2 sentences, seeing her have bigger conversations. And one of her things that she really enjoyed to do was decorating, interior decorating. She would show pictures of her decorating her son's Christmas tree. So what I had her do one of the sessions towards the end is we were getting set up for Christmas in the inpatient rehab gym. So I had her go to the Christmas tree and put more ornaments on, put all the different decorations on, and just to see her glow. And it's actually funny, 2 weeks ago, she came to come visit, and now she only doesn't talk more, but she has emotion expression behind her voice. So it's really cool to see someone at their lowest, to see them bust their tail, get better, and to see them grow. Unfortunately for me, a lot of the times I don't get to see them when they're out and about and they're really, really succeeding. So for them to come back full circle and visit, that shows that we made a positive impact. And I mean, again, that's a big reason I do what I do.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Now, just for everyone to understand, can you
Sure.
go ahead and describe the difference between inpatient and outpatient as far as what specifically you guys do?
Yeah, it differs. So again, inpatient, they're definitely more still medically complex. So they still require 24/7 supervision of a nursing staff and a doctor to oversee them. So again, they're working on those physical ailments. They still have medication issues. Still having, again, if someone's having low blood pressure, is something that we see a lot. A lot of blood labs being seen, kind of where their levels are. So again, when they're less medically complex, that's when they do discharge home. So again, inpatient rehab is about 3 hours of therapy a day, 5 days a week. And again, it's usually between those 10 and 14 days. When you get to more outpatient, that's maybe 2 to 3 times a week, an hour a day. So the intensity of the therapy is a lot more for me in my inpatient setting, which is probably more than any other setting you'll see. So those are the major differences, I would say.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's how I would describe my friendship with Kenny, 2 days a week sort of thing. It's more of an outpatient sort of friendship. So I appreciate being able to relate it to something.
You keep using this word friendship, dude. We're in a partnership. Like this is business, baby.
All right. Well, as long as I'm wearing the pants, that's fine.
You can't see my lower half, so you don't know what I'm wearing.
Oh my God.
That's my other podcast called Bottomless Brunch.
You know what? I'm curious about what demographic you're going for with that podcast.
You're my only subscriber, Joey. You use your same name as your YouTube account, so it wasn't hard to figure that out.
Really, Joe the show was giving it away too much. All right, but no, seriously, no. I mean, for Blaine and Kenny, do you guys have any recent success stories that you're proud of that you're still thinking about today?
Yeah, man. And I think we were even talking about this last time, and I think Kenny and I both agreed. We get more jacked up about and almost the same with Greco, right? I mean, we get jacked up when we have people that are able to do things they didn't think they were able to do, or if someone comes to me with a goal, I had a client come to me with a goal, and his son's getting older, and his son's starting to ride his bike faster and faster, and his goal was to be able to chase his son on the bike. And at first it started hey, if he starts pedaling, I need to be able to get after my 7-year-old son on his bike. And every time I run, my shins and my knees hurt so bad that I have to stop, and he just kind of rides away from me. So getting him to be able to run pain-free and run fast enough to keep up with his son, and now 1 day a week he runs next to his son riding a bike, and that's actually an activity for them. to stay in shape and be active and kind of have a family bonding moment. So things like that are very, very fun for us. But it's also things like, obviously that one seems very practical, very cool, right? But I also have another client, and her main goal was like, hey, I want to be able to do handstands again. And I got tennis elbow real bad, and I wasn't able to do handstands. So can we work on my tennis elbow to get back to handstands? And literally this morning, my client Christina, who I actually took over for Kenny's wife Whitney, finally got her tennis elbow in check and did her first handstand today in like 6 months, pain-free. So it's like, regardless of if to an outside person that seems like, well, why would you want to do a handstand? It's like, regardless, like that was her goal. We got there. We were both super jacked up about it this morning. So it was a super fun thing. So it doesn't always have to make sense to everybody, but to get a client to what they hired you to do is really fun.
Yeah, I would say the biggest win has been Griffin has taken his first steps. So yeah, it's absolutely wild watching your child develop in front of you, and Blaine, you're gonna figure that out soon. It's your own little science experiment, right? So my son having two personal trainers as parents is just going to be completely like flooded with Joey, are your headphones back out? You're killing me.
I know, I'm sorry, dude.
I'm hearing myself talk to me and I'm just so confused.
Come on, Joey, we need you here, man.
I'm sorry.
Get your head in the game. No, so Griffin never stood a chance when it came to he's never going to slack in his life because Whitney's the most structured personal trainer, structured person in the world, and I'm just like, let's see how far we can push this in a negative way as well. But we're continuously challenging him and just like watching him like actually figure shit out like in real time is just like the most satisfying thing. So whenever he hits these giant milestones, it's always just so satisfying. So he's been doing a lot of standing up on his own, and he has like this assisted like walker that he's walking around with, and so he's doing laps around the house with that thing now. And then now he's like holding one thing in his hand and like pushing the thing around. And then the other day, he's in Whitney's hands on the ground, and I sit down, I bring my hands out, and he turns to me, and all of a sudden he just starts taking some steps towards me, and I grab him, and I was like, "How much were you holding on to him?" She was like, "I wasn't." I was like, "What?" So it was kind of like a one-off thing, I thought, and then he's holding onto the edge of the bed, and Whitney and I are like off to the side. He's holding onto the edge of the bed, and all of a sudden he like looks over and lets go of the bed and just starts like walking towards nobody, and we're just looking at each other like, "Are you seeing this right now?" He takes like 4 steps, just stands there, like looks up at us like, "Are you impressed or what?" And then just plops right down. It was just the most awesome thing.
That sounds like me when I did bench press for like 125 or 145 for the first time, and you were like, "Way to go, Joey, you did it."
Well, the way he was walking also looked like the way you would walk when I would like bring you home from the bar, and then you just like plop down on your bed. I was like, "All right, bud, good night."
Another similarity is me and Griffin probably shit our pants on.
I was gonna say the same thing.
The similarity.
I was gonna say you both had a full diaper too. Squishy landing.
Okay. But besides on how last night went for me. Oh my god. I forgot what I was gonna say. Kenny, take over.
You have the questions. All right, hold on. I'll pull up a question. No, I won't because I got rid of it. Oh no, here we go.
Ask that fun one you were talking about.
Ask the what?
Ask the fun one. Guys, he texted me before we got on. He's like, "Hey, I made some questions that we can ask. One of them is pretty fun.
Okay, no, some of them are fun. Yeah, okay, so with actually, this is a great question for you, Mike. With the rise of virtual reality and gaming, how do you see technology continuing to influence to shape what you do as an occupational therapist?
Um, I think for me, especially like if you're talking about like an app or like a game or something on your phone,
No, I'm talking
again,
like virtual reality,
oh,
dude.
virtual
Like,
reality stuff. Oh
take
boy.
me to the future.
Um,
We're here.
well, it's going to depend, it's going to take the specific client for me. Because again, I'm not going to really have an 85 or 90-year-old walking around with a virtual reality headset. Might be a bad idea there and a lot of lawsuits there. Um, I guess for me, I'm just not I know what the VR stuff is, but in terms of how we can actually use it comfortably in my field, I guess it will take a little bit more research on my end. But just like anything, technology's power, man. And it's that VR is becoming a big part. And instead of us trying to push away like it's nothing, I think it's important to encourage the use of it as much as we can, as safe as possible. Again, me as an OT in the inpatient rehab field, probably not going to be using it much. I think there's still more research to be had before we're implementing it, but I'd be interested to see your guys' viewpoints on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
actually, really quick, I don't mean to cut you off, Blaine. It reminded me of something really cool that I saw, which was a study on people that lost the ability to use certain limbs, and they put a VR set on them, and in the VR, they were able they were able to see their limb functioning, like going through like different movements, and while at the same time there was a brain scan going on, and they were able to see that certain parts of the brain that normally hadn't been firing were suddenly firing again, and it actually led to like advances in their recovery as far as them being able to like rehab that limb that no longer worked, which was just
So
like,
I'm gonna jump into that principle too. So again, on the
please.
inpatient rehab level, I know there's a big thing I do, which is called mirror box therapy. So it's pretty much the same exact thing where we use visual feedback to try to stimulate recovery. So if I was sitting here, my hand is literally in a box and there's a mirror on this side. So whatever movement I'm doing with this, it's showing through on the mirror on the other side. So to go back to what you were talking about, yes, when you have a stroke or a brain injury and your limb is affected, yes, it's weak. But the other problem with it is, think of your brain's communicating with your hand, right? Think of this like an expressway. When we have that injury or that brain injury or anything happen, just think of a bridge just getting severed in half. So the communication from the brain is not getting to the hand. There's a loss in communication through time. So by using visual feedback like you're talking about, so again, knowing that VR information, having something like that would be very, very useful because, again, technology's power. So having something like that to help stimulate the brain to then talk to the hand would be fantastic.
I mean, that is just like so cool. Like, from a nerd standpoint, like that is cool just to see like the actual brain firing, and like you like that feedback is like, oh, dude, like I'm moving my arm. Now, I'm wondering if you pair something like that with, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Russian stimulation with like you put electrodes onto
I
your
am these days.
I need to refill my drink here.
Oh my god.
Woo! Okay, so Russian stimulation in the medical aspect is you have you have electrodes, and you, let's say, after an ACL tear, you lose some of your ability to fire your quad just because of certain receptors not firing properly. So you put the electrodes on your quads, and what it does is it creates a muscle contraction. So it will ramp up the signal to contract that quad. So you aren't physically contracting it. It's going on its own. The machine is contracting your quad. So the way that we re-educate the muscle after like an ACL injury is you do that and have someone mentally think about contracting their quad at the same time that the machine ramps it up. I'm wondering if combining that with the technology of the VR, I'm wondering if both of those at the same time firing, if that would like exponentially improve the recovery process. Because it's like not only are you getting that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, we have a piece of equipment at work. It's called a BioNest, so it's essentially the same thing. Again, there's an upper body component, a lower body component, but you have the settings there, and it triggers to how much I'm moving my hand, and you can control it if their hand's going to be here or out. You can work on functional grasp. You can do a whole bunch of those things as well. But yeah, the main idea is having, you got to focus on the brain thinking that it's doing something. There's so much research that shows there's one thing for me to passively move someone's arm. There's another thing when they're actively trying to do it and they're thinking about doing it. I mean, the results, there's just so much more of a difference when there's the component of thinking and believing that you're doing something, which is a lot easier said than done, especially in my field.
1,000%, which brings me to a funny story of Russian stimulation in the medical aspect, Joey.
Okay.
So the reason it was developed was because you had these, and hopefully I don't completely butcher this story, but this is my understanding of it. You had these Olympic powerlifters from Russia that were training rigorously, and then the coach was like, well, all this time that you guys spent sleeping, that is valuable time that we could be spent training. So he developed these electrodes to actually stimulate the muscle while they're sleeping. So they're always training, right? And so they did it for whatever the amount of time was. And then it wasn't until later that they found out that there was no benefit to use it while you were sleeping, because unless you are consciously trying to contract that muscle with it, you're not going to have a physiological response to it, right? So I don't know if you guys have ever used a stimulation pad on yourself, but like it's contracting it to the point of like a full-on contraction. So essentially it is super painful. So these guys were just trying to sleep through just like full-on body cramps all day, all night long, all for nothing, because they weren't mentally like engaging their muscles with it. So I
couldn't imagine sleeping with that on. I remember trying that on in OT school, and I remember the one that put your hand in full extension, and it's like nothing short of like a shock, and it's like a tingling. Yeah, I couldn't imagine trying to sleep, and there goes their recovery on that too. So,
yeah, my wife says she can't sleep with me snoring. Huh. Imagine if I shocked you. Just take out a taser real quick.
Oh my God. That leads me to like another question, Mike.
Joey, didn't you tase your gooch once?
That's not for this podcast. That's for the Bottom of Brunch podcast.
I'd like to hear.
First of all, it wasn't me. It was Midnight Amy, my alter ego, that did it.
But it was you. It was your body. Okay.
No, it's a sort of
you just weren't home.
Mr. Hyde sort of thing.
Yeah.
I expect to hear this on the Bottomless Brunch podcast that you guys are talking about.
You're invited. You're invited.
Oh, God. All right. My serious question was, Mike, you were talking about visual stimulation, obviously is a beneficial thing for your patients. Do you also do like I'm fucking done.
You shouldn't be allowed to ask a stimulation question, but go on.
No.
do you ever use music when you're working with patients? Because I've read stories before where music, obviously, when you go to the gym, like you want to blast like just rock music, get you pumped up. But when you're working with these people that are trying to, do the basic things, like do you ever play music in the background, and does sort of maybe get them going a little bit?
I absolutely do. Again, to go back to what I was talking about from the get-go, one of my first goals within the first few days is to get a connection with the patient, right? Trying to figure out what they do, what they enjoy. Unfortunately, a lot of the times I'll ask that question, what do you like to do? Nothing. Watch TV. So usually one of the things I try to bond with is, again, I love music myself. Any genre, you name it, I'm in there. So I try to pull some music to motivate patients, get them going. I actually have a funny story. It was I think a 95-year-old patient I had, just really had really flat effect, nothing really interested her. I'm treating her, and all of a sudden I'm just like looking through my phone. I saw that there was jazz music playing, so I typed in some jazz, and Blaine would know this too. I'm a big Usher guy. So for some reason I got lucky.
Oh, I knew I liked you, man.
And it's not because of the Super Bowl.
Let's
It's because of the Super Bowl. I was big into him before, okay? Big Usher guy. But I came across this Usher jazz playlist that there's 2 different albums. I'll show you this after. Great, absolutely fantastic. I started playing this. If you would see the flat effect just turn to a smile, all of a sudden I'm blaring this music and this patient's nodding her head, going through every single exercise I tell her to do. So I definitely think from a motivation standpoint, and it's something that they truly enjoy, I think you do pull it through. Because again, especially in my field, when they're not in the gym, they're just sitting in their bed or sitting in the hospital with those 4 walls. It can get really depressing. They get really down on themselves, hard to be motivated. So, yes, I'm constantly blaring music for one way or the other. Again, I can't tell if research is showing that it's actually helping in each diagnosis, but I'm really big on motivation. And if there's something that's going to get you to the level that you need to get at to get better and it's healthy and safe, I'm going to try it.
That's really cool.
So to kind of continue with that, my understanding is that a lot of times after a stroke, people lose their ability to speak. Now, because speaking and singing actually operate from like 2 different parts of the brain, there's a lot of therapy that's used through music to relearn speech, where someone who otherwise isn't able to form full sentences while speaking is able to then go ahead and sing in full sentences. Then it's kind of like, hey, we're bridging the gap. We're trying to teach your brain new ways to kind of get to where you're trying to be, like finding new avenues to get there because this pathway is damaged. So now we're going through this side of the brain using music, and I think that is just awesome.
Yeah, the brain is a very complex thing. I mean, we can go in deep circles on neuroscience and all of that stuff, but just something with speech. You can have patients that know what they want to say and are saying it in their head, but when it comes out, it's all garbled. So again, to talk to your song and your speaking, that's just what the fascinating part of definitely my job is, and the hard part is trying to see what happened with this brain, trying to put them functionally through something. It's one thing for me to ask somebody in an interview how they're doing. It's another thing when I put a comb on the table and tell them to use it. I've had some patients that have used that comb then to brush their teeth, like they didn't know what that object was for. So again, that I know that wasn't what the exact question is, but it's really fascinating again when you talk about the brain, and that's the tough and cool thing about my job is that each person's going to come in a little bit differently, and there's definitely a different approach to connect with them.
So to add on that, Mike, I don't know if you knew this, but I actually worked with a neuropsychologist for about 2 years. We ran a concussion clinic together, and he was absolutely brilliant, crazy but brilliant. And he was kind of one of those people that was like, I need to be the smartest person in the room at all times, where like throughout studying, like when he was at school, it's just like he always had to know the most. And he told me, he's like, Kenny, all of the information that I have on the brain, I am an absolute expert, but I still know nothing of the human brain. Like there's so much that we don't understand about it. And it's like that statement alone coming from someone who is just like one of the top in his field of the brain is just like, I know nothing. It's just like, oh shit.
Man, that's crazy. You know,
You're
before
crazy.
we move on, I know, thank you. Before we move on, I have an Usher story to tell because Mikey brought up Usher, and I have to get this story out before I forget it.
If you guys don't know, Joey is the greatest dancer I've ever met in person.
Okay, that's a great compliment. But okay, so
Usher's
This
a great dancer, and sorry, I put
he
two and
is,
two together.
but no, this is not about a dancing story. There was one time Kenny and I we went to a bar with two of our other friends, and we were all hammered by the time we got to this bar. We get there. Oh yeah, Kenny used to drink, guys. and when we got there, we realized the bar was a karaoke bar, right? And so all the friends look at me like, Joe, you got to get up there. You got to sing. And I was like, yeah, I'm not scared. I'll do it for sure. So I go up there and I sing and I pick an Usher song. And I was like, all right, well, I need you guys to like support me, like get the crowd going on my side, you know, when I'm up there, because I'm about to tear this fucking roof off. And so I get up there. They're like, Joey, come up to the stage. And I'm like, all right, woo, let's go. I get on the stage and I start looking for Kenny and our other friends. They fucking go to the back of the bar, the other room, leave me to my lonesome. And I'm just like on the stage by myself with Usher playing. And I'm like, you make me want to be the one with No,
I do not remember this story at all. Are you sure it was me?
I'm positive. I got off the stage. I got back to where you guys were at. And you're like,
What bar was
go?
this?
Did you go? I don't even remember. You're like, did you go
It's
already?
made
I thought
up.
you were up. It's not made up. I was so mad the rest of the night. It was
What
you
bars
and
did we go
Alex.
to that had karaoke?
Bro, like a bunch of them. We went to Tallahassee. Like they all came with a karaoke machine.
I don't remember a single karaoke bar in Tallahassee.
Well, that just speaks to your drinking habits back in college.
I was gonna say I don't know Joey too well here, but I gotta say you're probably far from a tenor voice, so you probably had a really hard time with that.
I know. I mean, you know, I was, but like
He's
I
a
was
dancer,
drunk,
not a
so
singer.
Did you dance up there or what? Did you at least dance?
I did. I was throwing like.
Now,
That's
did,
all
now,
he's
now,
got.
Now, did the shirt come off?
No.
No, you know what? I just undid the first 3 buttons because I was wearing a button down, but it was too much effort to like sing and dance and do that at the same time. So, you know, that's all they got. Anyway, I had to get that Usher story because when he came on during the Super Bowl and he was singing like a song, I was like, I sang that song one time, and freaking. I got flashbacks to the back of Kenny's head just leaving the bar.
Joey just turns the TV off. He can't handle it anymore. He's done.
Yeah, I was like,
Tell me when it's
I
done.
do not recall this at all.
He was chasing.
Tony, it was
Russian
you,
simulation.
Alex, and D. I'll never forget it.
Me, Alex, and D. Where the heck?
Yeah,
What?
I'm gonna Google this to see like where we were
Because
at.
there were only like 2 times I hung out with D. I don't know. But then
What
every
do you
time
mean 2 times? He was
I've only hung out
around-
with D like 2 times.
We're going up.
But every time I hung out with him, I know that it was the most I'd ever drank in my life.
See, this is my point.
So there might have been a karaoke bar, but that wasn't Kenny.
That was the alter ego.
Oh my god.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll come up with another question. All right.
Hold on, let me
Oh.
ask this question. You
Fine.
all right, boys. In a world where fictional characters attend fitness classes, which character do you think would excel in a specific workout, and what would that workout be? See, I was thinking because I like this question because I was watching One Punch
That's
Man
what I
the
was
other
going to
day.
ask.
Well, I beat you to the punch.
So a
Oh.
fictional character, why they would succeed in a certain workout that you would have?
Yeah. Like, how much do you think like Goku could bench?
I think that Monkey D. Luffy would be great at yoga.
Oh, I never got into One Piece, but I appreciate it.
Well, that's all right.
Tough question for my field. I'm really gonna have to dig deep for this one.
Dude, fucking 11 from Stranger Things is gonna fuck up my
What was the old guy's name in Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Eustace.
Well, I'm saying, I don't know. I guess he may not succeed in it, but he'd be someone we might see. Being a lot of family training for that guy.
That whole family's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I
Come on,
think
Kenny, what you
that
said Monkey D. Luffy.
I think that Gimli would be great at back squats because he only has like a foot to go down and up. Yeah, just
Dude, yeah. Yep.
that man would be maxing out a ton.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's a tough. I feel like there's just so many options of whether it's an exercise and fictional characters in the same question. Fuck, man. It's a good one.
All right, let's narrow it down.
All right.
Do you guys know that Kenny's favorite movie growing up was Hercules? And I think it's only because Hercules got buff as shit. And so Kenny was like, that could be me one day.
Oh, Hercules is an elite movie.
Yeah, great.
Dude, first of all, the soundtrack. Come on.
Yeah.
I can go the distance. You bet your sweet ass I can. Anyway,
Yeah. I play
only
that
Lord of the
song,
Rings
getting my Russian
characters.
simulation going.
No, if you had to pick yourself as one Lord of the Rings character when it comes to the way that you act in the gym.
Frodo.
Frodo's just doing like a hot girl walk on a treadmill.
Joey, I was gonna say you're more like a Gollum. You're just in the corner watching everybody
I
else.
was between those two. I was like, you know what? Frodo's the main character, though.
Joey, you do act like the main character.
I'm gonna
That's fair.
be straight up the like. I don't even. Does he even have a name? The like original orc with the like the handprint on his face. That's just an absolute monster.
Yeah.
That's who I want to be. Hell yeah.
That would be sick.
He's
That would be
an animal. Does he
Yeah.
have a name? The like captain?
I don't think so. Well, I mean, I'm sure he does, but like not to the. I don't know that much.
Yeah. Well, you would be the like one person I would consult.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I've read it like on like the wiki page, but I don't remember.
Wiki page.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Dude, it's one wiki to rule them all. Come on.
I can't believe you just said that. That's crazy.
Who would I be in the gym? I don't know.
You beat some like bitch ass elf or something.
Like I would say Aragorn, but like I wish I was him, but no.
Who's the little guy in Lord of the Rings? Gimli?
Which one?
Well, there's lots of little people.
No, he was like one of the main.
Frodo.
No.
What's the old guy?
Sam, Pippin, Merry.
All right, we're gonna
Gimli?
Gimli?
He's a little, yeah, Gimli, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like lots of little people. So is he the one
Yeah.
with like the hair?
So was it the
I just remember
Hobbits?
playing
Did
the
he have a
video game when I was
beard?
younger, and he was one of the characters. Yeah, he had a beard. Isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Gimli.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Gimli.
I'd be like
Yeah,
that because
yeah,
usually,
yeah.
like, if it's with Blaine or when I'm back home working out with my buddy, they're the bigger guys, and like I'm just trying to throw on the weights and try to compete as much as I can with them. And
That is a perfect one.
for one way or another, it's probably a good idea. But I think it's great because if you don't push yourself to get stronger and put on a little bit more weights, I'm not saying get too excessive, but I would never try the high weights that I've done if it wasn't for the guys I worked out with. So That's my answer.
I was like,
Yeah, that's a good one.
60 pounds since high school.
Yeah. I was a little fella.
You know what? I am going to go with Aragorn because you know what? He's not the strongest. He's not the fastest. But you know what? He's fucking going.
He's got
That man doesn't give up. What's up?
Oh, he's just got that dog in him, man. He's got that heart.
He's got that dog in him. He does, dude. He's got that dog in him. He's keeping up with these dwarves and these elves, and he's just like, let's go. Anyway, next question. No.
Also,
Are we out of
underrated
questions?
moment of all the Lord of the Rings saga is the competitive nature throughout all of it of Gimli and Legolas. Like, that is like my favorite dynamic.
When he takes down the elephant, and he's like, that still only counts as one. He like surfs down his trunk, and it's just like, come on, man, be better.
The game.
No, I'm kind of with Mike. I'm not a big Lord of the Rings guy, but it's okay.
I don't expect much from you anyway. Do you know that the day Griffin was born, I was like, oh man, I really feel like watching Lord of the Rings. Like, it would be great to like have Griffin be like that. That's his first movie he ever watches. I turn on the hospital TV. It's a Lord of the Rings marathon on the first channel that I turn on.
Yeah.
Straight up. And I was just like,
I'm surprised you didn't name that kid a Lord of the Rings name.
I'm sorry.
We don't have Aragorn Spy or something.
Middle name at least?
do you know my son's middle name?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, I do, yeah.
Avery.
Do you know what Avery means?
No.
Lord of the Elves.
That's a middle name. There we go.
Does-
There we go.
Does it really?
Yeah, Whitney didn't know it, which is why she agreed to it.
Now
Does
I
she
have
know
to
now?
hate Griffin now.
Oh, she knows now, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Thank you. All right.
It was already on his birth certificate. I was
You
like,
wait till
by the
picture's
way.
5 and then finally present that.
Yeah. No, as soon as it was like in print, I was like, by the way, your son is Lord of the Elves.
Have you guys ever seen New Girl, where one of the main characters has a son and he names him Dan Bill? And everyone's like, is your son's name Dan? His middle name is Bill? He's like, nah, it's Dan Bill.
All right, if you were a New Girl character, who would you be? Joey, I know you're Schmidt.
I think I would actually be Nick, because over the years I've gotten more depressed and I drink more.
I was about to say, you have really become a Nick. You used to be such a Schmidt, but now you're a Nick.
It's okay. It's a progression I'm okay with.
I was gonna say, Blaine, I haven't watched New Girl, so you might have to pick somebody that I would be to make this probably more enjoyable.
Your coach. Like, you're straight up.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one.
Greco is coach.
I thought I was coach.
No.
Yes,
If anything,
coach.
Kenny, if anything, you're Cece.
Oh, Joey, you're
Have you
her
guys
best
seen the podcast?
best friend who's Russian.
Yeah. No, because Kenny, you're just like a...
Where she's like, I break his penis.
Yeah.
God.
Have you
What
guys,
is this
have you guys
podcast
listened to Buster podcast?
What happened?
I have.
Jake Johnson's
It's pretty
podcast.
good.
It's so funny. Yeah.
It is really funny. It is actually really funny, yeah.
No, I think I'm a combo of like Nick and Winston probably. Those are the best.
I love Winston, but Winston's just a little too
Winston
weird. sometimes.
Winston becomes the best character, like as the show
By
goes
far.
on.
By far.
So Jake Johnson basically has all the cast of New Girl eventually as guests on his podcast, and they are pretty much all their exact characters. Like, they are themselves on that show.
Yeah.
It's insane. And Lamorne Morris
That
is
is
incredible. And they said essentially as each season went on, they just wrote Lamorne Morris less and less lines, and he just like did his own thing.
I love it.
Well, that's why. So Winston sucked when he was first like on the show because they were like trying to make him like into this like they were trying to put him into this other category, and then he was just like, "All right, yeah, just go ahead and be you," which is the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
Also, 2 Chicago natives. Jake Johnson and Lamar Morris.
Well, anyway, let's
Did not know that.
go ahead and wrap up the podcast so we don't just totally go down the dark end of the spectrum, and then we can continue talking after we're done with this. But
Okay, great.
Mike, thank you for coming on. Thank you for dealing with our shenanigans, but more importantly, thank you for educating us on what the hell an occupational therapist is. And I think that it's good for us to know, but it's also for whoever is watching the podcast. It's good to kind of get that word out there. And Blaine, thank you again for just being you, man.
Of course, man. Happy to help.
Joey, you're here too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're just here.
you're here. Yeah. Thank you for playing the role perfectly of someone who knows absolutely nothing about fitness.
Oh yeah, I actually do know quite a bit, but I just wanted to play down a little bit.
It's so funny because you guys have only ever seen this much of Joey. Underneath, ripped. Greek god.
6-pack and all, or what?
Yeah.
6 is limiting.
Yeah. It's just under a lot of stuff right now, but it's there.
All right. Signing off. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you.